And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
Our guest is absolute, pure, unfiltered, through and through badass. You are absolutely going to enjoy this. Congrats to so many of our friends, including today's guest on Grammy Gold. Dave's come out of the lab with a new ITL. We are back up and fresh after NAMM. Let's get it. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Yeah. Oh man, Grammy week is over. Thank the Lord.
Whew.
Gosh,
It's been a long time.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Oh, you know, living the dream.
Yeah, well, you know, once NAMM and Grammy week is over, now it's on to our live event, so I'm exhausted already.
Yeah,
but
just the word live events makes me tired now.
It's going to be good, though.
Yeah.
Good week?
Yeah, so far so good.
Got a chance to see a lot of friends that are in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of special cats.
Absolutely,
So, yeah.
absolutely. Shall we get to it?
Let's do it.
We got a good one. Hey guys, it is sure good to see you again. We're back with a new slate of shows, hot guests, contests, live events, and much, much more. We want to see if we can help accelerate your journey in audio just like you've helped us. It's going to be a ball. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate it mightily. That helps us fly and helps us keep bringing the show to you for free, so we certainly appreciate it. Our partners, absolutely best in class, no question about it. They are the Blackbird Academy, Vintage King, Audio Technica, Aftermaster, Isotope, the Fab Factory, Recording Connection, and Studio 202 DC, and of course our friends at Avid. Wanted to thank all you guys, just a quick moment, for your kind words on our little Maurice White tribute last week. It was very nice of you and all the things you said. And thank you for letting me do that.
Oh man, I don't have any control over you.
Well, that's true.
That's not.
Well, but I check with you.
I got witnesses. Chongo, write that down. I got control now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All seriousness though, man, you know, I know he was very close to you.
Yeah.
A big part of your life. And, my heart goes out to...
Well, you know what? The show got birthed while I was his partner, and he encouraged that. So there's this kind of crazy connection, and you know, he just opened up and
I
said,
can
"Let's
mention
do it."
something real quick.
Sure,
man, there's people in this musical world that we stand on their shoulders, and then hopefully, if we do something well enough, people will stand on our shoulders. And Maurice White, that whole Memphis kind of crowd, David Porter, those guys,
Amazing.
Isaac Hayes. It was just a moment in musical history that probably will never be duplicated. And he, his vision. You've told me stories about how, like Shining Star and those kind of stories. I mean, it's a sad loss.
Well,
and by the way, he should be one of the most respected people in the industry.
Listen, I mean, the one thing about it is Reese went peacefully, kind of the way Reese would do things. I think he knew. He did innovative things. This guy got Harry Blackstone Jr. and magicians from back in the day to help create his live shows. Was unheard of. This is, it's back in the 70s. He collaborated with everybody from David Foster to Tom, just amazing type people.
George Massenburg got his start.
Massenburg,
got his
to
start.
Al Schmidt, mixed Earth, Wind and Fire records. I think the notion of somebody who lived life fully, made contributions, and then said, my affairs are all in order, I'm good, now you all handle it. And that's kind of what Reese's thing was. And I think we all feel responsible for handling it. And you mixed the last 2 or 3 Earth, Wind and Fire records.
Yeah.
Well, those things were approved by Maurice, and he used to love your mixes. So, not to belabor the point, but, you know, a really special time. Yeah, Cabron, the band's in great hands. They're touring. Damian Smith, my protege, now Irving Azof's partner, handling the band. Cabron's an audio engineer and now getting taught by teachers we know. So I promised Reese we'd take care of him. So look, it's a blessing that we've had a chance to work with a lot of very smart people, legendary people, all of the people that we have one on today. And part of the blessing to me is that you get to learn and spend time that way, and then improve your thing, and then pass it on. So, right, is that a good way to look at it?
You know what? I'll end this with this. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I knew a couple of in Atlanta what would be considered big artists, but the greatest part of my experience early on in Los Angeles was not building my career, but meeting people I respected.
No question.
And I met him early on, and sad, you know.
And by the way,
several of them are not with us anymore.
I'm still that way.
Yeah, me
I still
too.
meet somebody and go, oh my God, because I call you all the time. Guess what I just met? It's just amazing. So it's great to be a fan of somebody and
Yeah,
something,
I think
and that's what we
so.
do for a living. As we tape this, to tie it together, it's the day after the Grammys, and so many of the Pensado family did really, really well. Dave Reitzes with The Weeknd, Mixed by Ali with Kendrick Lamar. I spoke by email to this morning with Dave Cobb and Vance Powell for their incredible work with Chris Stapleton, Manny Marroquin, Brody Brown for their work with Mark Ronson, Josh Goodwin, Tom Coyne was all over it from a mastering standpoint. Our guest was involved with this awesome record, an awesome artist. We'll talk to him about that. We even had some of our sponsors do things. Aftermaster actually was used on the nominated song in the R&B category. Shout out to Larry and the guys there for doing that. Audio Technica was on hand, making sure their mics were in the space. Earth, Wind, and Fire, which you just got through talking about. They got a Lifetime Achievement Award. You mixed their records. I mean, it was fun to sit at the Grammys and go, oh, we're kind of in that, and oh, we know them, and oh, there's a fan.
Well,
So
you always want your friends to do well.
yeah, no, I was very proud.
Except when we fish, then I want the biggest fish.
Well, of course, I mean, the Grammys at some point in time will be like the Pensado Awards, but that's another.
That was a little
That's
arrogant.
another story. Well, they are different. But,
They are, actually.
we have something to shoot for. So congratulations to all. We are super proud to be associated with you. Without you, we wouldn't be what we are, and we're just impressed. Shall we meet the crazy guy? Let's meet the horny, healthy Hungarian who hosts the corner office. He goes by the name of... Now, come back from that one, homeboy. Horny and healthy. Let's see how you handle
I'm reading,
that.
I'm like, oh no. It's coming.
Chongor can see my teleprompter, so he sees that he's about to be,
You use a
bombed.
teleprompter?
No, I'm reading. This is all from memory.
I didn't know you did
Yeah,
that.
right. So, horny, healthy, how are you? You good?
I'm great, man. I'm so great. We're back at it. NAMM shows are done and Grand Week's over, so we can get a little breath of fresh air.
How about this? A quick shout out. In the Pensado Media Center, we are lucky that a lot of our sponsors help us out and they provide us with things. And we were in need of a pair of monitors badly. So we made a call. Who came through for us?
We got the sickest barefoot monitors. We got the Micromain 45. They sound so great.
They do sound good.
They look so good. They take the control to a whole nother level. It's
And
unbelievable.
they look good too.
They
which,
look good.
which is much needed in the control room. With the level of pulchritude we've got in there.
Well, yeah, JD has raised the level with the new
That's true.
assistant.
Well, I mean, Leandro too.
Well, JD's handsome, and Leandro, he's so smooth. Dog. I've actually had a few marketing ladies say, he's just so cute. And I was like, oh, well, can we make some money? Leandro, I need to talk to you about how to close
I'm
the deal.
uncomfortable going there. I mean, I got to see this guy every day.
Well, deal with it. I mean, I can get you an uglier assistant if you want me to.
You're a man of many hats, and one of them is the managerial hat, which I wish you'd put on about right now.
Okay, I know. So we should move on with the show.
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's do that.
Well, I have a career left.
You and our man Chongor over there, the healthy hungy, whatever he is.
He's
Hungy is somewhere between hungry and Hungarian, so he's hungy. You guys have been shooting a bunch of ITLs,
Yeah, we got some good ones.
and we're going to be able as we roll out, we're going to have our normal ITLs and some exclusive ITLs, right? But this one comes from our friends Isotope. You sort of took a unique approach. Explain.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information out there about Ozone 7, so I tried to slot my presentation in between some of those concepts. So I'm basically showing you how I use it in unique ways, and you got some real world examples to look at on records that are coming out.
Cool. Let's roll it.
I want to talk to you today about Ozone 7. I've been using Isotope products for such a long time because they just work. I earn a living with these products. They're tools to me, and some are more fun to use than others. And Ozone gives me so many options, and it's very musical. I know a lot of people at the company. They're good people. They care about you. They listen to us, and the owner's just a special cat. I think that's important because those have a way. Those traits have a way of making it into their product. I was trying to think of a way to kind of explain how I use Ozone 7, because a lot of us originally thought it was just a mastering tool, and then some of us thought, well, no, it's more than a mastering tool. And I was thinking, if Ozone 7 were a car, it'd be the greatest off-road vehicle ever. It'd also be a great NASCAR car to go around the track. It'd go to Europe and win Formula One. It just shouldn't be that good at so many different things. My point is, don't think of it as just a mastering plugin. I don't, and I'm going to show you how I use it in a non-mastering mode, and then I'm going to also show you the equivalent usage of it as a mastering. And by the way, keep an eye out for bundles, because I use Alloy 2 every mix. I use Nectar 2 every mix. I use Trash 2 a little bit. And that bundle is really worth it. You've seen me use Nectar on before, and then also Alloy 2. They're just amazing plugins. The transient shaper in Alloy 2 is worth the price of admission alone. So let's take a look at what we've got. This song is called Follow Your Heart. It's by a group called White Lightning out of Canada. Steve Bosch and the boys sent me this to mix, and I fell in love with it. It's just a great song. It just makes me happy when I hear it. They recorded it really well. So I've got set up here is I've got Ozone 7. I'm going to show you how I'm using the individual ones, and then I'm going to show you a 5-second version of Ozone 7 as the entire group of plugins, and you'll see how amazing it is. So here's a piece of the song. Sorry, guys. I'm going to show you the drums first, then I'll show you the music and the drums, okay? Bear with me. Okay, now here's one of my favorite new plugins. It's program dependent. It reminds me of a 160 XT, which I use a lot. Now, these different choices here are very important. They affect some things behind the scenes that can kind of, well, not kind of. They just try every one. I can't predict. I'm just not that good. But you can see what I'm doing here. Regular ratio, slow attack time, fast release time. Now these, as it says here, these are detection filters. Instead of having a roll off or one thing, you've got the ability to move these around and alter your detection circuit. These are the ones I found to be the most useful. Now I'm not trying to make this so much a tutorial as expose you to a lot of the concepts behind Ozone 7. So if I go too fast on one thing, just hit us up, and I'll go a deeper dive on those, on whatever you want me to do. Now, so we got that. Now I want to show you. Leandro set this up for me so I can switch to music real quick. So here's the music. Okay, so now let's take off these plugins one by one. Okay, what I've got is I've got this imager. This imager is pretty spectacular. Think of it as a widener, but you can widen different different parts of the frequency spectrum. I love this thing. So listen for the change in the width. You know what? Let's do. No, I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. We left a nice little spot for the vocals. I know that's a little subtle, but a lot of things, mixing is just a lot of little subtle things. Now here's the exciter. I think of it as a just really advanced. Well, advanced is the wrong word. I don't think of it as an exciter because I always think of an exciter as exciting this frequency band here above 4.5K, but it does just as good on these bands too. The low end from 200 on down to battery DC is amazing. So let's check that out. I like this range. So this gives us an EQ control, equalizer control that's very musical. You can hear it. You can hear it. Now, this guy is doing a lot of heavy lifting. This is the dynamic section. Everything here is pretty straight ahead. It gets a little louder, so bear with me on that. Makes me smile, makes me happy. Okay. Now, the drums, let's bring those guys back in. Okay, now I've got the maximizer on the stereo bus. You'll notice something different from 6. You got 1, 2, and 3, but now we've got 4, and this little bad boy is so cool. I tingle every time I use it. Oh, and by the way, there's a lot of backwards compatibility between 7 and 6. I can't remember exactly how much. It might be all of it, but I wouldn't worry. The plugin's so good. And then you got options here. I always try each one. You know, I'll do that for you. To my way of hearing, the transient one sounds a little more old school. Classic one sounds a little bit old school. I like the modern sound. I discovered this knob accidentally. It's called the character knob, and as you can see, it controls the attack and release, and there's a lot of value in this knob. So pay attention to it because it's gonna affect your energy. It can increase the energy, it can decrease it, and we always want to increase the energy. You can this is you know, I'm not going to go into all the details. You guys need to buy this thing and go through it yourself. Sometimes you might want to have the plug-in control and make the gain equal, so that you don't fool your ears. That's what this little guy's for. So let me see if I can do this real quick. Oh, you know what? Let me bring up. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna. And don't laugh at me now. I'm gonna try to mute all of these and then put this on. This is the entire plug-in. So let's see if I can do it real quick. I got nervous. That's hard to do. We should do an ITL on practicing this. Okay, so now let's go mute the individual ones and only have the entire plugin, Ozone 7, the entire plugin. You know, I was expecting it to not quite be that good. That's pretty impressive. The presets in Ozone 7, it's a good time now to talk about them. They're actually pretty amazing. I chose Electronic Clarity, but let me go through a couple just so you can see how good they are. Man, I could play with this thing all day, but I got a couple other things I want to share with you. Don't go anywhere. The codec preview feature in Ozone 7 is something I'm really enjoying using. You can see how your MP3s or your AACs are going to sound before you send them off that way. And you can also hear just what you're losing going from a WAV file to an MP3 or an AAC, and I've been finding that very useful lately. The Vintage series, of which the compressor and the limiter are one, also includes an equalizer that's really good. It's modeled loosely on a Pultec, and I use that a lot. The tape emulation plug-in is modeled on a Studer 810. I like it because it's you can be as subtle as you want, you can be as aggressive as you want. I don't know if I told you, but in case I didn't, the limiter is loosely based around a 670 Fairchild, one of our favorites. Well, guys, if you have something you want me to go a little deeper on, a technique or something you saw in the session, let me know. You don't panic with all that noise. The noise just reminds me of the ocean, so it's a good thing. All right, guys.
By far, by a long shot, one of our most requested guests.
Yeah.
Doesn't do these things often. We are blessed to have him here. Multiple Grammy winner in multiple categories, hugely respected and revered. Yeah. On top of it, a really cool guy in spirit. Thanks to Candace Stewart for hooking us up. Yeah. We are thrilled to welcome to our desk the one, the only, Spike Stent. Hey, bro.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.
I feel like I should stand or something, you know?
I know, right? I was standing ovation.
Well, let me say this. Spike is someone that I've known of and known from a distance and known a little closer for a long time. Mm-hmm. And he epitomizes everything that's great and good about our profession. Mm-hmm. And,
thanks, Dave.
And I've ripped off tons of shit from him. So
as everybody else.
You don't know how much I've ripped off of
I need to have a conversation with everybody.
Man, that Gwen Stefani snare, that made it on about 10 #1 records, man. I feel like I should get
That's become your signature.
I hadn't used it in a while, but I'll take a new one if you got anything handy. Hey, Spike, thanks so much, buddy.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We were kidding each other in the green room a minute ago. Like, we know how much each other's time is worth per minute and per hour. So he's losing a lot of money coming here. I'm hoping it's worthwhile. But man, we thank you for sure. Spike, having spent a little time in London and wanting to be British, what's the process between adopting the American sound and the British sound? Because they're two separate concepts. Like if you look at the EQ points on, like, say, a Neve, they're different than what Americans choose. Did you have trouble making that transition, or how did you do the transition?
Well, I think the main thing for me was, back in the sort of earlier days when I was in Olympic, I was at Olympic for many years, and I kind of it started happening that I was doing a lot of records for here, and I would say about 60% of my mixes were for America, and it wasn't until I actually moved here and actually spent a lot of time here that I realised, hang on a second, I've not quite got this right. What's going on, especially in the urban world, and so because that urban bottom end and the balance between
it's different.
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah. So I think that is a huge difference, and also the way sort of rock records are done here is different, and there's been it's been a long change over the years as well. I've seen a sort of dramatic change in balancing between different genres of music, but just like how you'd balance certain records, and that's definitely different where the vocals are placed in England to here.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Do you ever end up sort of mixing the two together, creating a hybrid of them, or do you keep them separate?
I do two separate mixes.
Okay. Gotcha. Keep
So
a
yeah,
keep
I
a
mean,
clear
it's
line
like
between the two.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, unless it's like a record that just translates everywhere and everyone's happy with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Amazing.
I want one of those.
Yeah, me too. Translates everywhere. Right. Absolutely.
When you're working with a band with all live elements, and then you're working with say Selena Gomez product, like one of the mixes you just did for her, which is spectacular. What do you have a different approach, or are you constantly just going by your own taste and letting that propel you?
Yeah, I think I mean I've always gone with my sort of own gut instinct of what I think it should be. I mean, there'll be a point of view in a rough or a demo, which I'll suddenly go, oh, that's what the key is to this, But I always go with my gut instinct. And I think the other thing that I've always done for many years is have lots of different sets of different hi-fis and speakers around the room, just so I can just check it and make sure I'm not going mad, and not getting too overexcited. But
do you bring other people's opinion into the process? I mean, I often just tell me if you feel this is true. I often think you guys are between your creative talents and the psychology it requires to be between a band and a producer and a label and all that kind of stuff. As you're making those instinctive decisions, which we've heard for 5 years, that process of keeping that decision to yourself and letting the character of how you see things is really informative to your style. Do you keep that as a singular process, or are you open to outside input from folks?
No, I'm absolutely. I like working with people, and I think it's very important to sort of take their opinion. The first version of a track, what I'll do is this. I'll listen when I first get contacted, either by the artist, by the label, or by the management, or whoever it is contacts me. I say these things to them: send me the demo, send me where you're up to, and any other important moment in the sort of production stage of mixing a record or making a record. Because normally the reason why they're calling me is because somewhere along the lines maybe they've lost sight, they've got too close to it, and that's where I come in. And normally I can see what happens, and I'll take stuff from the demo, or the arrangement of the demo was better, so I'll chop around the production to that. But I will always have a conversation with the artist and the label, everyone, just to get their sort of vibe. And then the first version I give them will be what I think is right. And most of the time I kind of like it. And then there's tweaks. We live in the world of tweaks.
Right, that's right.
Which is fantastic. It's not Recall City the way it used to be, which you can't say to people these days, actually, I can recall it in about 3 weeks and it'll cost you this and do it. We can't work that way.
Can't do it anymore.
We have to work in a modern way,
It's interesting. You guys' process is the same. We always felt that we call it the creative conversation that you initially have helps set up a lot of parameters to work within, from delivery, file transfers, creative direction, expectations, and then you end up in a collaborative process where people who have given you music feel comfortable letting go because they know you understand. They have a sense that you understand.
I mean, I always say this to every artist. I always say, look, it's your record, it's not mine.
Right.
you know.
Right.
And, you know, if it's a kid who's like, it could be a 16-year-old kid who's got this hit on his hands or something and says, you know what, I always wanted it to be like this record or that record. I'll listen to those points of view and go, oh, okay, I know what you're on about. Okay, yeah, I can see how you like that track, how you want it to be, that vision in your head, which you can't seem to get it across. So I'll listen to everyone, you know, and you know, and we just go from there, really.
You mentioned the modern way. Is your team and the way you work with your team, would you consider that germane to the modern way? Like, like Leandro starts my mixes in the next room. Your guys set them up in England for you, and then you send them. They go straight to England. Then they set them up and send them back to you here.
Yeah. Well, I'm very lucky because I've got an amazing team.
That is a modern way.
Yeah, I've got Jeff Swan, who's a fantastic engineer.
Hello, Jeff.
He goes in every day, well, 5 days a week into my home in England, into my studio there, and basically all the files go into Jeff. They also go into Michael in LA, but Jeff sets up the sessions. He does the edits that I want him to do, or if there's sample placement, or you know, there's always problems with plugins, with this, or you're missing that audio file, or that version. So there's a conversation that happens creatively between me and Jeff. I say we need to do X, Y, and Z, and then by the time all that's together, the next morning, by the time I get into the studio, it's already uploaded. I walk in and I can do the creative bit, which is, you know, it's good. You know, I'm very lucky. I'm very, and you know, I've got Michael Freeman, who works. I've just started. I've got a new studio here in LA with my friends.
Where would that studio be?
East West. And it was the lovely Candice Stewart that made that happen with Doug Rogers and my East West family. And I have to say, you know, I worked out of Olympic for many years. I was a client there, and I had a room and a business there with them. And it's the first time since those days for me that I felt like I've got a family around me. And it's a brilliant place to work and be. And I've got you know, there's other places in this wonderful city where I've worked and I've really enjoyed it. But they make me feel at home there at East West. And so thank you to everyone there.
Candice Stewart is...
the Queen Bee.
Yeah, is a superstar, really.
Yeah.
And I've just decided that I'm taking her out of it's not that she's unknown, it's that she's not known enough. So she's going to have the Herb train on her because she's a bad girl. And Doug Rogers and what they do over there.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Amazing.
Amazing. And, you know, just to dwell on a little point, you know, East West, you know, Doug and Candice made that happen for me to have a home there. So it's been fantastic and allows me to have this scenario. Which
and Michael Freeman went to the Blackbird Academy. Is that where he's
correct.
out of?
Yeah.
Ooh, John McBride, Karma, teaching, doing what they need to do. And that's the beauty, I think, of kind of what we keep saying to our audience, that at some point in time, as they morph up into different communities, you can gather people together and take advantage of all these skills that people have gotten from another place and put them together and make it your own, create your own signatures and stuff.
Yeah, and you know, I think goes back to what your interview earlier is. For me, if I've got to, whoever I'm working with closely, I've got to be able to, you know, there's got to be a vibe in the room. You've got to be able to get on with them. You spend a lot of time with them.
Yes.
And so there needs to be an instinctual connection. And I'm very lucky. I've got great people around me, and I've got fantastic sort of tech back in England. Chris Binns, who's brilliant, and Lawrence Melchos, if I pronounced that right.
Sure.
Sorry, Lawrence, if I haven't, who's really helped set up the LA Mix Suite at East West.
Where what's fascinating to me about you, Spike, is the breadth of the records that you do. I mean, you've been nominated in a number of categories and so on and so forth. Is that personal taste? Is that just what keeps you stimulated? Is that the phone happened to ring and you like the project? Where's it come from?
I think it's personal taste, a lot of it. I've got my wife's my manager, Tracy, and you know, sometimes she goes, "You need to listen to this again," and because I think this is good. So she's creatively always sort of guided me, because sometimes
Tracy,
it's so,
managers, Tracy. Got you
she's had
right
to put
here.
up with a lot. But you know, it's kind of like, you know, sometimes, and Dave will know this, when you're so dog tired and you're just trying to get a mix done, and there's like 15 tracks come in that you need to check to make sure the right, you know, it has to be right for me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, look, I'm very lucky. I've been very lucky throughout my career to be able to work on some amazing records and great artists, and very diverse, because I never like to be pigeonholed, and I like doing different things different days.
Yeah, and that's where I was getting to, because I've noticed the same thing in managing Dave's career. The breadth of stuff that I think for both you guys, you left brain, right brain types, in order for you to operate at your peak, you have to be stimulated, and you won't be stimulated if it's the same thing all the time.
I couldn't do ballads all the time.
Right, you know what I mean? Kill somebody. Like,
too much.
Absolutely.
I got a thought. Maybe you can help me with this. I think, and please disagree with me if you think I'm wrong. I think one of the reasons that we're good at different genres is because we haven't fallen in love with one genre, one band, one decade, one sound. And it feels to me, and I'm not insulting anybody, but it feels to me like the Beatles fanatics, they end up with one sound all their life because they're so in love with that, or people that decade surf for different decades and fall in love with the 70s. They sound like the 70s the rest of their career.
Yeah.
And I think it's a healthy thing to have heroes, but how you use them is important, because if you use them like we do, you learn the elements about those heroes, like passion and performance and vibe and emotion and feeling, and that's what we fell in love with. We didn't fall in love with a decade, and if you work with those things, you can work with anything, right?
Yeah.
You can do a polka music and be okay. Maybe you have to listen to a couple of polka records, but
I mean, I definitely, you know, feel that I grew up in a household where Motown and the Beatles were huge. Like my mum would listen to that and Rod Stewart and Elton John records, and then, you know, I'd go over to my dad's house and there'd be Stones playing all the time. You know what I mean? And then I'd see my stepfather and there'd be sort of Kraftwerk going, and Grace Jones with Fleetwood Mac. You know, so I was, you know, and I was into sort of like, you know, Sex Pistols or something, and then early funk records, and I was very much grabbed by electronica and Michael Jackson.
Well, that's part of what I've noticed about your records. Not only the records that you work on, but also the artists that you work on. There's a soulful thread somewhere in there.
Thanks, Herb.
That goes through them. But it really is, and you can take almost any genre, because you know, I tell people all the time about rock records. Like, you know, I'm the guy that's going to annoy you when you pull up beside me in the stoplight and look over, and I got AC/DC banging. They're saying, "Who's the old black guy?" And I'm like head banging, and then Public Enemy comes on after that, and then something rock comes on after that. And so I just pick up those things.
Average white band, right, Chungo?
Average white band. There's a story in Nashville about that. And so when I look at Spike Stent records, there's this through line of edgy, but sort of there's an urban thing in them, and it feels to me like it's kind of what you described, how you grew up ends up coming out in the mixes.
I think so. I think, you
It's
know,
pretty
I
cool.
love electronica, and I always have done. But like reggae were the first records I actually engineered, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. First record I ever mixed was
There's a little funkiness in what you do all the time. It's got a little thing on it.
You know, Steel Pulse was the first record I ever mixed at 17.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, you know, you know, I have many influences, and you know, I don't know, it just
Keep
sort of
them all, please,
Yeah.
please. It's so refreshing.
Let me go back and clarify something for our audience.
Okay.
Rubber Soul and Revolver were so important in my life. That's all I wanted to do was whatever I heard on those records. And I didn't know that engineering was a possibility for me at the time, but I was playing in bands, and that's all we played. I was like a Revolver tribute band for years. And it was really hard to turn loose of those influences, because those are in my opinion, some of the best records ever made, and will continue to be. But influences are necessary, but using them is a touchy thing. You can be taken over and consumed by them instead of influenced by them. And the difference is, if you sell more records than they did, you were influenced by them. If you sell less, you ripped them off.
Well, you know.
I got a laugh out of that.
Oh, yeah. You stretch for it, and you finally got it. It's like an Odell Beckham.
Accent, by the way.
Got you. At what point in the Spike career did it go from working on, I mean, you started out at 17 with Steel Pulse, not bad, but there's a point where all you guys go into kind of star genre, where stars are comfortable with you and in the house, and
I mean, I started, I suppose, in mean, I started in '81, and it was this lovely studio in the countryside of England. I'd hassled the owner for a year, and Andy and Fran Fernbach, and they finally gave in to me. I wasn't even 16 years old when I walked into that place, and I was there to do a summer job. It was mowing the lawn and cleaning the pool and stuff. And I used to spend every waking hour that I wasn't doing that stuff for them in the studio and helping out. And it was very much a studio that just started out residentially, and it wasn't one of the top ones, but which meant we did loads of recording, and they didn't have any assistants. It was that kind of place. This is early days, but it meant I got to record things and see things and get involved very early on. So I was really lucky. Yeah. And after that, I was there for 4 years, and I went to Trident. And I think we talked about this, and we started off in a similar kind of style. Yeah. I joined Trident and in '85, and the first kind of things they put me on were like working with DJs, and I would do these extended mixes, and basically about that
12-inch.
Yeah, the 12-inch.
Yeah.
And it was just like and these guys would come in, and I'd they'd have booked a percussionist, so I'd record all this percussion with them, and they'd say, just sort of do your thing, and I'll be like, right, okay, let's do a dubbed out intro with all this percussion and stuff, and then the song would creep in, and then you'd double up the middle 8, and then you do this long tripped out outro, and that would be the song. But what happened was, the turning point for me was the A&R guys would then say, I'd get a call, go, do you know what, why does your 12 sound better than my 7-inch? And he said, can you run me off a 7 of that, but without all the dubby stuff, like the pure song? And I was like, yeah, sure, okay. And that's how the mixing thing started. But my big sort of breaks really, I guess, were with sort of Depeche Mode early on.
Amazing.
And then it was the Madonna stuff really that really sort of opened things up for me.
Wow. How many Madonna records did you do?
Loads.
A ton.
A ton, yeah.
Wow.
I did quite a few with her.
Wow.
And, quite a few albums.
When you sit down to start a mix, where do you start? Do you start with the drums or the vocals, or?
Well, what I do first off is I'll listen to all the versions of it, and then I'll probably just start by going mute the vocals and just go instrumentally for about 10 minutes, just like sussing out everything, seeing what's there, and then I will start with drums up, depending on the track. But it would normally start with drums up, because my sort of thing is, you can't have a building with shaky foundations, otherwise it's going to fall down. The same thing with your mix.
Good point. I like that. When your low end is so tight, and you're known for your low end on every genre, really, are there tools or techniques that you can share with us about how you do that? It's more just a philosophy of wanting it to be right than it is an actual technique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely that. I mean, I've kind of always used NS10s and without subs, and I'm always pushing them to the max. The bass drivers are always flying over the back, going through a lot of fuses. But then, in all seriousness, it's always about a vibe to me, and I need to get it like the kick drum's a certain way, and like the bass sitting in it. I mean, one thing I've learned here is the fact of how you get the kick drum to knock. It used to be like, I'll be like cranking loads of 50 hertz into it. Right. You get it in your car here, and it'd be just like the bass will just be going. Right. And now you need to make it knock. So you need to have an element of that, but like some 200 punch in it, so it's knocking. And then the sub helps you with the kick, with the bass. So those. Kind of thing.
But aren't you doing like a parallel chain that has an overcompressed version of the drums and an exaggerated high end, and you're mixing that in as much as needed to kind of?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll have loads of outboard going on, but basically with drums, I'll probably maybe have 3 different compressors, different types going on. So I'll have a Compex. So I'll send all the drums to the Compex, and I'll EQ into it. And then I'll have maybe a pair of distressors, or I'm kind of like, I walk in and it'll change each day. But there's normally a Compex involved. There's normally an SSL outboard compressor involved. And I'll EQ those. And then what I'll do is I'll mix those all in underneath the main sort of thing, just so I get the power of it,
So when you say an external SSL, you're talking about a GL384 or an Allen Smart or something?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
the Compex, just for people that's kind of an unusual piece of gear for America. Describe what you mean by that.
It's an audio and design box, which is quite brutal, and it's one of my favourite drum compressors, actually. This thing just like absolutely nails it. And it's an exciter. I mean, it really excites, and you can really feel it pumping. And because I don't like subtle compression, really. It doesn't really work for me.
You're like,
Well,
boom.
I know your records. You don't like subtle anything. If you want me to hear it, I'm going to hear it.
Well, I kind of. I
just
just.
your stuff.
You know what? We're so lucky.
Yeah, no.
We're so lucky. I get to work on my favourite. You know, it's not a job what I do.
Right.
We do.
Right.
It's like we have fun each day. You know, we get to work on music, and I just push up these drums and do this, and you know, and there's samples added in as well, which will help. Like I'll probably, you know, there'll be like, if in the session there may be 2 or 3 kick drums, and then I'll probably sort of layer a load more. And then I'll sort of EQ them differently, and maybe for different sections. And also with the drum compression, the sub stuff that's going on, they'll probably jump up in the choruses to add extra dynamics, and extra sort of top end excitement, that kind of thing. Yeah.
What's funny, Herb, is the engineering community, particularly the mix community in LA, is actually kind of small. And in the 90s, we kind of all saw each other all the time, and the talk of the town was how Spike had like 8 million SPL transient designers, and I'm sure their stock went through the roof.
I wish I had stock.
Right, exactly.
And so this is actually kind of like a big headline that he didn't do it with a transient designer. He did it with old-fashioned skill and a couple of good tools,
Right.
you know. And that warms my heart, because I'd like Spike to expand on this. But you guys starting out, it's not the gear, it's the ear. It's when you really want to hear something a certain way, and you work hard enough and long enough, like 10 years or so, you'll find a way to get that sound come out of the speakers, and that's probably more important than any piece of equipment. The tools we got now are better than ever.
Right.
Amazing.
But they're still best used. The best usage of them seems to come from guys like him. And the thing I love about Spike is I think I can quote this because it stuck with me when I was trying to transition from working strictly analog to moving into the digital world. Spike described his morphing as just a progression. It wasn't like we said, "Oh, digital's dead. Digital's the way to go. Analog's dead." It was just kind of grew into it naturally. And I think that there's a question here somewhere, Spike, but that eliminates the argument about analog and digital. That argument died 5 years ago. The argument now is make a great record or don't make a great record with the tools you have, and don't covet the tools you don't have. And it's a natural progression, isn't it, Spike?
No, definitely. And I still use my console, but I use it in a different way. It's a piece of outboard now, and I think that's what's, I still love analog technology, but I incorporate it in the digital world, and I'm, the advances that we've made,
It's amazing.
I mean, it's incredible now what we can do. It's brilliant. You can call me up and go, Spike, can you just turn up the snare drum in the chorus? Is there something wrong with you? Turn it up. Right. And I'll go, okay, send you that version back in 10 minutes or whatever it is.
I can listen to you while you're doing it from wherever I am.
Yeah, and that's...
Just don't encourage that, though.
but you know what I mean? It's great now.
And you know what's fascinating to me is that this is actually our 250th show.
No joke.
It is.
Really?
This is special.
Yeah, absolutely. So
thank you. Thank you guys.
And we have watched changes in technology over the course of these 5 years and so on and so forth. And it's been amazing watching the evolution. And there's no end in sight.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about where it's going to go, it's hard to even imagine where it could go. There's so many tools now. God. And the good news is that guys like yourself, studios like East West and Larrabee and other friends of ours, they figure out how to thrive in that environment instead of having the technology take them out. And that adaptation.
Yeah, I think it's all about adapting to a new way of working. And, there will always be the traditionalists, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And however you want to do it, I know how it works for me.
That's right.
And that's, we all find our path, and I'm all about moving forward.
Yeah.
I love the way things are done in the past, and there's a lot we can give to people, and of the way those techniques, and make sure they're upheld and everyone, not forgotten.
I love it when when a client uses the exact same gear that I have and brings me something and I elevate it to another level. The reason I love that is it gives me a chance to show off, but secondarily, it shows the client that it's not the gear. It's 20 years of playing in dives around the South. It's working, doing lawn work in a part of England. And by the way, I'm going to say this because I love this. It's my favorite job in all of audio. Being a T-boy, I wanted to be a T-boy so bad, Herb.
I thought that's what
Do
you
they
were
still
doing.
exist?
You know what?
The
they
meaning has
may do,
changed.
but I haven't seen them for a long time. You know, the thing was at Trident, they had a definite T-boy system. And, you know, day one, guaranteed, we're going to send them out for a left-handed screwdriver, a can of tartan paint, and something else. You know, after 2 hours, these kids would come back, bless them, and be like, you know, shaking.
Right.
Thinking, I'm going to get fired, you know. And then just everyone starts rolling around laughing. It was brutal back then.
In the South, we sent them for a sky hook or either out on a snipe hunt, one of the two.
You did snipe hunt. That's true.
But I always thought that T-pop and T-boy, which were primarily professions in the English scene and the scene in England, I always thought that was just the coolest thing ever.
Absolutely. You know what? Let's see if Chongor's got something over there in the corner office. Chongsi, you got questions for our guests?
Yeah, we do. Let's get it started. This first one's from Andrew.
Oh, that was authoritative.
Let's get it started.
Hey,
You want to sing that and do the song?
No, I can't.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't
Just
sing.
test it.
Let's tell them. Okay, Changor, go ahead and get it started.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
get it started.
Cool.
Cool.
All
All right, cool.
This first one's from Andrea Chow. When creating your reverbs and delays, what are your go-to pieces of outboard gear and plugins?
Great question. I have it right here, man. Thanks for burning that one. That was a great question.
Delays, right?
job.
Okay, so delays these days will normally be something like Echo Boy or H delay, that kind of thing. Reverbs, I love my East-West reverb. That's good. And also, I'll probably use a plate of some description, plug-in plate, UAD. I quite like the H reverb a lot. I've got my 4AC, which will never go away. What else have I got? Like my AMS, still comes out again occasionally. And then I'm quite into tape delays. I've got quite a collection going on at the moment.
Do you really?
Yeah. So my newest one's like this amazing Electra set sort of thing. It's incredible.
Do you have a Watkins?
I don't have one. I used to.
Oh, I want a Watkins so bad.
Mate, I'll get you one.
Okay.
Done. I'll send you one.
It was like the first tape delay ever.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
copycat.
Wow. Chongor, give us another.
Can I get a B part in, a B part to that question?
Go for it.
Great job, Chung. When do you use a delay on an instrument, particularly a vocal, as opposed to a reverb? Because a lot of times you're only using delays on your vocals.
Yeah, I guess what it is that I went through a period of trying to, I always in my mixes, I wanted to create a depth and a 3D sort of image. And I found reverbs tended to wash things out, and delays gave me a sense of a floating feeling or an excitement in like the vocals or something, rather than just something sounding washy. So I would, I use sort of delays a lot more than reverb, I'd say.
Chongor, give us another one.
This was from Stephen Coro. How has the adoption of small portable speakers affected your mixing approach?
I don't think it's affected in any way. I just use more of those little systems, especially with subs and things. I have like this Sony Hi-Fi that I've had forever, and I've had to buy another one of them. So I've got, I've got that. I've got some little Adams speakers. I've got some, all kinds of little beat boxes and boom boxes.
Do you listen a lot in your car?
Not really.
Okay.
I tell you what I love listening to is my little Apple speakers. There's a little secret. Check that out on your iMac.
Which is how a lot of
Because if a mix sounds good on that, it's going to sound good everywhere.
You're good. That's a great tip for you.
We used to listen a lot on the speaker on the Studer. I called it prison radio. You remember those?
I do remember.
It was like
I've got on my desk in England, on my particular console, which was one of the first G consoles ever built. which came out of Studio 3 at Olympic and then went into the mix suite in Olympic. Long story, but basically it had this small speaker which is still there, which sounds fantastic. Wow. So I went to my dear friend and tech, Chris Benz, who's been with me for many years and set up so many studios, sorry Chris, for me, back home. And I said, look, I'm going off to LA, you're going to have to build me something. Well, you're going to have to emulate this. And we've looked, you know, he's had it apart, he's had the serial number, trying to find this thing, so that, anyway, he came up with, you know, like the big Studer, reel to reel, not the A77, what was it called? Oh, I've got PR99. Anyway, it had a speaker in it. Anyway, he's made the Binzy, as we call it, and it's basically pretty close to my SSL speaker, and I use that a lot as well in mono.
What do you use mono for when you mix?
Do you know what? I've mixed more records in mono on my little speaker on the SSL, because it's amazing for balancing vocals especially, and things that are wide, just so you can hear stuff. You know, even though it's mono, you know, I don't know. I just got a feel for that speaker. I know it like the back of my hand. So trying to recreate it was really tough.
John, got another one?
I don't think so. Do you have another one, John?
We're all good.
Oh, you got them all in?
Yeah.
Do you feel pressured?
A little bit.
Are you sweating? That's all right. We'll get you off the hook. You're going to warm up your arm for batter's box. Well, I ask, as a, you know, you and Dave are in positions that you've earned and worked really hard to get, and you cherish, and we're all lucky to. I tell people all the time, you know, you're lucky to be a steward of pop culture. Not everybody gets that opportunity. You got to take it seriously and be responsible about it. What do you watch? Do you watch business trends? Do you not worry about it? Do you just stay focused on the music? Is it education? Are there any things that you do? Some people don't want to deal with the business side. Some people do. Where do you find yourself?
What do you mean business-wise?
Well, just whether it's where engineering is going, where the music business is going.
I kind of sort of feel with the music business, it's, you know, I think we're actually in quite a pivotal time.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's quite exciting for our side.
Yes.
I think it's important that we make sure that, I think what's really exciting about it is that a lot of young musicians and people are able to put all their music on the net for us all to share and listen, so we discover great new artists that maybe we wouldn't have had a chance to in the past. So I think that's really exciting, and I'm all for all that sort of thing. I hope they work out how everyone gets paid a bit better, which has become a huge problem.
Yes.
So that we can still have time in these wonderful facilities like what Candice runs at like East West, so we can still make these amazing records. Because you know, I think that it's important that live recorded music is still kept.
Yeah,
you know, there's some beautiful records that are continually being made, and we just got to make sure that artists can afford to go in these facilities, because these facilities need to open up their doors.
That's right.
And also teach our future engineers concepts which, when we're stuck in front of a rig in a small room, you know, they're not going to learn as much as they would in a wonderful recording studio where strings are recorded and drums and everything else and brass.
That was my next question. We always feel that education is important. Do you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is I think education's got a lot better audio-wise.
Yeah.
There was a period where I was a bit like, is this a bit saturated? Are the wrong people doing this for the wrong reasons?
Right.
And I maybe haven't, you know, but I've definitely seen some great things going on, and you know, I'm all for the youth. I think we must champion them. We must help them as much as possible.
Oh, it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, if we care about the business that we've helped create, or we stood on shoulders of others, as you
people gave
mentioned
me a chance. They really gave me many opportunities.
And they don't have the same learning. I didn't mean to cut you off. They don't have the same learning opportunities we did. We somehow got inside the studios. We had people mentor us. You know, we feel it with our show when people are we get emails all the time.
I think this is fantastic what you're doing.
Oh, great.
As well.
Thanks.
And you know, everyone should be thankful, because you know what, there was never anything like this before.
Yeah.
And when we started, there definitely wasn't, because I was looking at books written in the mid-60s about BBC recording. I'm going, what the hell is that?
They can't even find that equipment anymore.
R.E.P.
Well, that's part of the digital revolution that, you know, you guys are so instrumental to, and we've been able to take advantage. We couldn't have done this 10 years ago without the tools. Nobody
Yeah.
would have said, where was the environment this could exist? But that's also what's so exciting about moving forward. There's new tools, new ways to think about it, new
Yeah.
ways to access information.
Listen, I'm all for the future. I really, really am. As long as we don't forget the past,
Yeah.
and you know, we help it, and we make sure the young guys and girls going through, you know, they're made aware and able to be made aware how things are done or were done, and they can work out their own techniques and things. But
And you know, you make an interesting point, because that actually makes you better. When you have that history, when you understand that, if you look at any great denizen of anything, they understand the history, they build upon it, they learn that technique, that maybe there's a way to apply it today. Then
that's how I learned.
Yeah.
You know,
We all do.
I've plenty have made some terrible sounding records that I had to learn myself, much like Dave.
Oh, yeah, of
course.
but also I was exposed to some amazing engineers early on,
Yeah.
and studying fantastic records. I mean, you know, Bob Claremountain for me
Oh,
was you know, I sat for hours in, you know, listening to his records, going, oh my God, how does he do
It
that?
feels like Bob invented the position of mix engineer, doesn't it?
Well,
This is like
I
Mount
actually
Rushmore.
feel he does, you know, and
I
I'm
didn't think
lucky.
about it as a profession until I heard about him. You know, I copied everything he did, the tissue on the NS10s and all
we all
that.
did. I mean, 1979, I remember being at my school and reading this interview in International Musician about this guy in a studio, and you know, he'd been doing Chic records and you know, working on Roxy Music and all this stuff, and I was just like, who is this? Oh, that's exactly, you know, one of the reasons why I got into it was, you know, because of people like that, you know.
Absolutely.
Same here.
All right, is your arm loose?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you ready for batter's box? Because you got, listen, he's combining lacrosse, cricket, and baseball. So
Very
you're
good.
You're going to get hit in ways that you don't. Football to us
and
means
American,
something
man.
different.
So
So
it's America, man. We don't do that. We
America,
don't talk about
this is America. Well, as we,
what do you bring up next? Soccer.
well, I did, but we over here we call it football. We don't call it soccer,
we
right?
certainly do.
So
Thank
as
you,
we
Ab.
give a shout, my man, I'm Canadian, England, we're together. So as we give a shout out to Paul Salvador, happy birthday! It was yesterday. We love you. It was the week of the Grammys. It was actually the day of the Grammys. Let's kick off batter's box, and you throw the first pitch, sir. Go.
Guitars.
SG.
Woo! Bat speed.
Son of a bitch.
Yes.
Synthesizers.
Moog.
Boom.
Condoms.
God, you've totally failed now.
That's a good one.
Bass.
P bass all the way.
Snare.
Orange County.
Did you look at these before I started? Okay. Beatles.
Abbey Road.
44-1.
Sennheiser.
Bastard is good.
But you're throwing good pitches.
He moved
Bat
he
speed.
moved the decimal point and gave me a microphone instead of a sample rate. The motherfucker.
Have you ever seen play cricket? You ever seen a wicket get knocked over? Your ass will get hurt. And you're getting hurt
I'm
now.
angry.
That's right.
Okay. Background vocals.
Ooh. Figure of 8.
Reverb.
Lexicon today.
Lead vocals.
Chain.
Okay, I know he's going to get this wrong because I'm going to be the judge.
Okay.
Do you want the
You
chain?
can't say computers. You can't say your dog, your wife. But if your studio caught fire, what one piece of gear would you rescue? Time's up. Okay, I'll give you.
He's so dope.
No,
he
I-
doesn't need anything.
I'll give you. I'll
He
give you
doesn't
part
take
2.
shit.
Okay, what would you rescue?
Apart from my Pro Tools rig?
Well, okay, that's a good one too. We'll give you another one.
I would say, what would I rescue? Probably my SSL.
Damn, he's a strong man.
Strong man. You got Pro Tools, it's SSL, and all the assistants are dead.
It's fire because there's gonna be like a burnt
don't know.
crispy skeleton line across Channel 24.
Mike, we love you. We hope the fire. We're not sure if the fire is at East
Maybe
West
my
or at
LA2A. I don't know. I love my old LA2A. There's something about that.
There you go.
I like the LA too.
You were comparable.
2 knobs, I can run it.
That's what she said.
Wow, this whole thing is degenerating.
Well, it's
quickly.
gone where it's gone. It's found its natural water. It's been wanting to go there for a minute.
Have we ever done like a bleep on the show, like Mother Bleep?
Yeah, do that again.
Mother bleep.
Mother bleep. Okay.
Yeah, we need the.
Trying
we
to put
need
in a
the
mother bleep when we edit
my,
tonight.
my audience is not. I'm trying to stop cursing or cussing, however you want to say it, and I'm not doing a good job.
And how do you
hanging
pronounce?
around you?
How do you
is part
pronounce
of
the
problem.
acronym FCC?
FCC?
Say it.
FCC?
Oh no, how do you pronounce it besides FCC?
Federal Communications.
No, never
Communications?
mind. Never mind. We will move on. To say the least, Dave and I acted giddy. I hate to admit this,
Yeah,
but
we did.
when Candace
I
sent us the
squealed.
email, yeah, we did squeal.
Yeah.
I think we both squealed. We squealed privately. We get to be on this show and just be fans of the people who sit to our
for
left.
sure.
And the fun part about the people who sit to our left is they're just so damn cool. Like 99% of the people, right? We just have a great time.
Yeah, if I could toss
How
some.
come you let me in the door?
Well, you know, we hit Candace up and said, and she was like, you know, he doesn't do those kinds of things. He's just not gonna.
Well,
and then
to
the email
Spike's
came.
credit, he tried. I sometimes I called a little late. Sometimes, you know, he's a busy person, and
Usually when you call, you have to be on the next hour. You haven't given him enough running time, which is what usually happens. But I hope you had a good time.
I had a lovely time, and thank you for having me, guys.
We
I
are.
really enjoyed myself.
Will you come back?
Absolutely.
We can't.
100%.
We can't ever cover it in one show.
I have a deal though.
Okay.
We got to go out for dinner though afterwards.
Okay,
Done.
sounds good.
Okay.
Absolutely done. The other thing we do, which Candace has seen, is periodically we do some live events in various cities, and we'll have 800 to 1,000 people come, and they just sit and they learn. Well, here's the fun part. It's actually less scary than the show.
Is it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
they are so happy to just absorb information. They come up and tell you how much they've impacted you, and you start to get a feel for the important platform we have. So, and we can do some things with Skype. The bottom line is, where Spike Stent is comfortable with us doing things, this platform is always open to you. Pleasure to
Definitely
do that.
come and help wherever I can do, because that's the one way, you know, people like us can give back.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
So I'm all for that. You know, I've got 4 children myself, so
Fabulous.
maybe if one of them becomes an engineer, that'll be good.
Bring them
We'll
on
see.
through.
We'll see.
Absolutely. Dave, this is quite the day. We've been waiting on this one for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Candace Stewart and Doug Rogers at East West.
Yeah.
Big get. Take us home, buddy.
Guys, I was thinking about influences. We were talking about Revolver and Rubber Soul and stuff, and a little bit about how to use influences. The first time I heard a mix by Spike, it influenced me, but I didn't rip it off. Well, I kind of did, but more or less it was just an affirmation that I found a kindred spirit. His mixes remind me of some things that I did, not quite as good at the time. And it kind of let me know maybe I could do this as a profession, because I'm hearing things in his work I liked, and I tried to emulate it. And so your heroes, your influences need to be digested and filtered through who you are. A blatant copy of them is no value to anyone, particularly copying me, because nobody needs me now, and a second-rate version certainly isn't going to be in demand either. So be careful about your influences, because they can be the most incredible thing you can ever find and use for your career, but they can also hold you back. So that's a deep statement. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I'm going to think about it too, so you think about it.
See you
Thanks,
next
guys.
week. Bye-bye.